year, not only on the field but off the field as well.
Yeah.
And I was a bit disappointed to see Mason Reno move away from Newcastle. But if you're the second string,
Yes.
then you got to look after yourself really and look after your family. So he's most probably done the right thing.
Yeah.
There's a guy that was I think he was second in the Dally N, the young fella, plays for Newcastle now.
Alan Fuller?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to be amazing over the next 3 or 4 years, mate. And I wouldn't mind betting that Newcastle will have a bit of a blinder next year. I think they could very well be close to the top 8 by the end of the season. That's my little punt for next year as well.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me, that boy. He kind of reminds me of another JT, Jonathan Thurston, to an extent. Hey, what do you reckon there, JT?
Yeah, absolutely. The guy's got class written all over him, both on the field and off the field. He did numerous interviews in the lead up to the awards, and just the way he carries himself is all class. He's only, 19, 20 years of age, whatever he is. So obviously, he's got star written all over him, and for the next 10 years, he'll be a name to look out for. Unfortunately, he's opted to play for Australia. It would be good if he, decided to play for the Kiwis, because we could do with a class player like that. But, nothing but, good luck to the young fella.
Yeah, well, what are your thoughts about...
I think JT, the only reason why some of the Māori players opt for playing for the Australian side is because they want to play in State of Origin.
Yeah.
And if you opt for the Kiwis, you can't play in the State of Origin.
Yeah, you're probably not wrong, Joe. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think that the NRL or whoever's running Australian Rugby League, they need to sort of have a look at it. If you want to be, have a sport that's global, then you've got to stop protecting your own domestic championships or eligibility. You might have to tweak it a bit so people do have the option of actually playing in the State of Origin.
That would be an interesting one. What do you reckon about that, JT?
It's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. But that would make it interesting, eh, JT? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I know that over here in Australia, young fellas, when I think it's under 14s or under 15s, have to sign a form stating their eligibility, whether they're going to opt for Australia, State of Origin, or New Zealand, or any other nation for that matter. So, yeah, look, to me, State of Origin is the pinnacle, but
yes.
And it needs to be brought back into line, and the international game needs to be put more to the forefront. I mean, we've seen what Tonga has been doing lately, and good on them. They've got a test match coming up against Australia. We've got the Fijians who, for my mind, Fiji is an untapped market along with Papua New Guinea. Those are the guys you want to get playing our game. They are just supreme athletes. They like the running style of the game. And they don't need to get tied down with the boggy rucks and mauls and what do you call those things, rugby scrums and all that sort of carry on. Like, give these Fijian boys, these Papua New Guinea boys the ball and tell them to run. That's what we need. Never mind the other rubbish.
So you bring up a very interesting fact, though, is that because of the State of Origin, it might be kind of, I guess in a way, it kind of belittles the international game as such, and it makes, because Australia is so big and it's so strong, in particular in rugby league, it makes it a bit more difficult for rugby league to grow in other countries. So maybe as a result of the State of Origin, eh?
Yeah, there's an example of how insular and protected Australian Rugby League is when you look at the Chinese economy. Now, they don't really need to trade with anybody else because there's 1.5 billion people in their own country. So their domestic economy is just as good as their international economy.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like rugby league. Australia is the home of rugby league.
Yes.
Now, they don't have to play anybody to be good because the good comes from the NRL, comes from the local leagues, and it comes from, as JT says, the pinnacle is actually state of origin. You know, so they don't need really to tweak the rules to allow anybody else in from outside.
True.
So you know, it's a hard question about how you change that thinking. If you want to have the game global, then you've got to make some changes.
True.
If you don't, well, that's sweet as well, because I'll still be a Dragon supporter. And most of the Dragons, they come from Australia, except Woodop.
True enough. What do you reckon there, JT? You kind of agree?
No. Toe's actually spot on the money, boys. I think the English Super League, they're trying to do some expansion plans across the board. They've got a team from Toronto, the Wolfpack.
Yes.
Who are in the second tier competition this year. They're trying to get the team in New York on board as well.
Yeah.
Another mate of mine is coaching over in Serbia in the Serbian Super League, and they're also trying to explore that avenue. So the British English game are definitely trying to expand the code across the new markets.
Yeah.
And if you read certain social media sites, like on your Facebook and whatever else, you see different posts from these are from Australian people saying, look, state of origin is good in that, but it's stunting the growth of the game. So they're quite keen for state of origin to remain purely Australian, and that's what I think has got to be done. So talk about your Jimmy Tamos and your Kalen Pongas and the likes of them, and make it an Australian-based purely concept.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you grew up or whatever. It should be where you're born.
And I think you could be onto something. Certainly there anyway. I mean, because you look at I hate to make a comparison between rugby union and rugby league, but union certainly is out there in the international scene, isn't it, Toe? More so than rugby league.
Oh, it is, and it is. I think it is a truly sort of global sport with the Eastern European sides and a few of the South American sides, and plus us and Aussie and South Africa. And I think it will get bigger and better, rugby, with the introduction of a new sort of European championship like league every November. With league, I'm not so sure. I think that if you centre it around, like JT says, I mean, if you get Fiji and Papua New Guinea and also the Samoan team, and pump enough good money into those countries, I think you got the makings of a very, very good Southern Hemisphere block of rugby league nations.
True.
And like JT says, you give the ball to the Fijians and let them run. I mean, they'll run all day.
True enough.
And they'll knock the shit out of other people as well.
Yeah, indeed they will.
Because they're just naturally and physically are very hard, very hard people.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think Australia should actually be looking at putting some money and some support in, rather than looking at it too globally. Well, how about looking at our backyard, the Pacific?
Absolutely. Any final thoughts before we go to the break there, Rao?
What, in terms of the league?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in terms of the league.
I just think it's going to be a great grand final tomorrow, and I might even take a bit of a wager with somebody. Put my money on the Storm. If it's a complete, a total upset, well then that's going to be huge in Sydney. But tonight I don't think so. I think the Storm are just going to be too strong. I think it's going to be couch potato day tomorrow, because we've also got the ABs at a good time around midday-ish on Sky. So. It's going to be a feast of footy on Sunday, Keithy.
Indeed, it will be. Anyway, we'll be back talking more sport right after the break. FM. On behalf of the full-timers, I would just like to say big thanks to Joachim Currid, who brings us our music intro. Check him out on joachimcurrid.com. He's also on YouTube, Twitter, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Spotify, Instagram, and follow him on Facebook. Another big thanks goes out to Silent Partner, who brings us our outro. Check out their music on YouTube. And also thanks must go to the Polish Ambassador for the backing music for this promo. Check out the Polish Ambassador on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Beatport, Instagram, Twitter, and on his website, thepolishambassador.com.
You're listening to a podcast produced by Tūrangi FM, #1 iwi radio station in Aotearoa. We play each full-time session on Tūrangi FM Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. You can listen in live on our Tūrangi FM media page. Just click the main Tūrangi FM logo to tune in online. Or if you're in the Gisborne area, we're on the radio frequencies 91.7, 95.7 and 98.1. Also check out the Full-Time Facebook page where you can listen to the podcast again. Make comments and click links that will lead you to other ways to listen to the podcast, such as Spreaker, iTunes, SoundCloud, Twitter, YouTube, Podchaser and Tumblr. Right, let's get back to the Fools on Full Time.
Welcome back to our full-time show right here on Tūrangi FM, of course, into our second session. I'd like to send another shout-out, of course, going out to our sponsors, Ray Scrag Motors, down there on Ray Street. Of course, joining us, we've got our special guest, Henare. Kia ora, Tau. Great to have you on board once again, bro.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. We're very appreciative of being asked to come on this great radio station.
Now, I know you've been in politics for quite some time, and just a quick gander at it. What do you think of Jacinda? Now, she's had a couple of big days, especially going over to New York. How do you think she's doing overall, and how do you think her performance, I guess you could say, has been over in America?
Oh, mate, I think, when you're the Prime Minister or the Foreign Affairs Minister, or somebody like that, high up, and you represent the country overseas, you don't want to misstep. You don't want to do anything that makes you look a bit stupid.
Yeah.
And I think that she's done well. Actually, she's done amazingly well at representing us. You don't have to agree with the politics and anything like that. This is all about putting the country on the front page of other people's newspapers.
Yeah.
And so she's done that really, really well. And I think it's not only a master stroke, but also a stroke of having to actually do it, which is take your baby with her.
Yes.
And I think people have liked it. I think people have thought to themselves overseas, of course.
Yeah.
That it's a bit of a stroke of genius. And so the media overseas and other leaders are dining out on the freshness of Jacinda.
Yeah.
Now, back home, of course, it's a wee bit different. You've got the left and the right still going at it, hammer and tongs, and Winston in the middle. It's been a wee bit different. But overall, I think she's handled it very, very well, and big ups to her. The rule when you go overseas is don't diss on your own country.
Yeah.
And she hasn't, and she's put New Zealand right up there. Agree or not agree, she represents New Zealand, a bit like the All Blacks.
Yes.
You're not allowed to go and have sex in the toilet with some rainbow.
Not usually, no. Yeah.
It's that sort of thing, You represent New Zealand.
Yeah, yeah. And she's done an admirable job over there in New York in particular, especially on a number of the talkback shows that she's been a participant in as well, hasn't she?
Oh, yeah. She's, like I said, 100%. If it was out of 100, I'd give her 99.
Absolutely. Right, let's get back into sport.